Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. We've got multiple news items in today's video, including a hilarious story from Joey Logano on a recent undercover operation he pulled off for Ford, and another story on a special perk Logano received as part of being the 2024 champion. I also have a follow-up to my Monday video and the top story on Kyle Larson and an interesting twist it is taken. Sticking with Larson, we'll discuss the remarks of one veteran broadcaster who made a prediction this week about the HMS driver winning the Indianapolis 500. Plus, yesterday I sat down for an interview with Tommy Joe Martins, and we talked about the hiring of Parker Retzlaff and what it means to the Alpha Prime Racing organization. And of course, I'll discuss the biggest offseason news that happened on Wednesday, with 2311 and Front Row winning the temporary injunction and now being allowed to compete as charter teams in 2025. However, before we get to that big news, I want to go back to an interview I heard on Monday from Joey Logano and his call into a show on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. The Team Penske driver talked about how busy he's been this offseason, including trips around the country to promote his reign as the 2024 champion and show appreciation to those who helped him get there. That included a visit to Ford in Michigan, where he received a special perk. Take a listen.
So we want to go around and celebrate with them, right? Bring the championship to them. So we've brought the trophy to Dearborn last week, which was fun. They let me drive the new GTD that's coming out. Holy moly, that thing's awesome. So that was fun as well.
Well, definitely a cool perk. That was nowhere near the coolest thing the three-time champion talked about in his interview. Instead, that was about a recent undercover operation he participated in. Yes, you heard that right. Listen to this.
It's not out yet, but I'm going to do a little teaser here for you. Ford asked me to go undercover and dress with a disguise, my wife and I, to go to the Huntersville Ford and buy a car undercover, and it was awesome. Here's the deal, guys. We're third-generation chicken farmers from Arkansas. We just moved to North Carolina, and we needed a vehicle. And it's priceless. I can't share it with you yet because Ford will get really upset with me if I share it too soon. But it is hilarious. This salesman, his name was Joe. We scared the hell out of him. We went in the woods. He thought he was getting fired. It was great. I learned my wife's a great actress, which made me a little bit nervous. But it was great. We made this poor man feel very awkward.
Listen, I know some fans don't like Logano for a variety of reasons, but I think he's a hell of a driver based on his 3 championships, and more importantly, off the track, he doesn't take himself too seriously and likes to have fun. This prank is a perfect example of who he is, and I can't wait to see it when it comes out. I'll do my best to keep you posted when it does. Moving on to our next story, and that came on Tuesday when Kevin Harvick shared a post on X. There was actually a response to an NFL post on Sunday from Carolina. If you didn't see it, the NFL account showed Harvick's son Keelan doing a special pregame handshake with Panthers player Sam Franklin Jr. Sam Franklin Jr. has an incredible handshake with this young fan, the post said, with the video. Unsurprisingly, NASCAR fans were quick to point out the identity of the young fan and his famous father, who was sitting in the background of the video. That's a former NASCAR champ and a future NASCAR champ, wrote one fan. If you don't know that young fan's name, you will, another responded. On Tuesday, the 49-year-old provided an update to he and his son's travels with a photo of the pair attending Monday night's matchup in Minnesota between the Vikings and Chicago Bears. Great experience last night at NFL game with this young fan, Harvick wrote, obviously referencing the NFL's original post. Unsurprisingly, fans picked up on it and responded, including one driver. Quote, young fan, Junior Motorsports Xfinity Series driver Connor Zilich wrote, including a crying, laughing emoji. Happy Harvick making a lot of folks smile with that photo and what he had to say about the young fan. And now I get to share with you a story that has to be one of the most bizarre experiences as a journalist. You guys who regularly watch the channel know I source some of my stories from listening to SiriusXM NASCAR Radio and the various conversations and interviews they regularly have on their channel. In fact, I mentioned that in the pair of Joey Logano stories earlier in this episode. So Tuesday afternoon, I was listening to the channel at the normal time slot of Dave Moody, who is on vacation for the rest of the year. I know this because I heard him say that on last Friday's show. That's also the same day when I heard him talk about Kyle Larson and committing potential career suicide by making a sudden move to Formula One. I wrote about it for Athlon Sports on Sunday, and that was my top headline story in Monday's video. Veteran broadcaster Jack Arute was sitting in as Mooney's substitute, and I'm listening for about a minute before I realize he's talking about Moody's Friday remarks. He also talked about Zach Brown's comments, which I also wrote about and included in the video. Then he mentions where he read the story. It wasn't mine. It was another site that quoted me, as you can see here. Now I want to let you listen to the rest of the conversation.
Do you think that maybe there is something afoot, not necessarily for next year? The article was written, I've never heard of this cat, Sashwat Deo. You don't think that's a nom de plume, do you?
I've never even heard of the publication that
Yeah, I know.
Of.
Could
So,
be AI. Is it AI? Maybe it is AI.
it could be.
The internet has beef with Dave Moody.
I will say that for a lot of those sites, they I don't even remember that conversation. It might have been with a day that I was not here. I'm assuming that they pulled it as a quote from this show.
No, they pulled it from
remember.
X. They pulled it from X, according to, and I'm not going to bore you with.
Moody tweeted something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even care that they got it wrong on who wrote the original story and where he got the quotes. It was just bizarre to be listening to the channel for potential news items and hearing them talk about a story I had written. Honestly, the most interesting thing I heard listening to Arute was what he had to say about Larson and the Indianapolis 500.
I got to tell you, I think Kyle Larson, after what I witnessed up close and personal, and also because of my ties with Tony Kanaan and Arrow McLaren and what he did and the way he adapted and just how laudatory TK was about everything that the guy did, I honestly think he could become the first NASCAR driver to win the greatest spectacle in racing. If he keeps after it for the next couple of years, I truly believe that that's right there on the precipice of happening.
If he wins at Indy, the question then becomes, can he win a Daytona and join Mario Andretti and AJ Foyt in exclusive company? On Wednesday, while surprise, surprise, listening to SiriusXM, I was listening to Larry McReynolds and Alan Cavanagh during the on-track show, and they were giving report cards for the newer teams, including 2311 Racing. America's crew chief talked about the success of Tyler Reddick, winning the regular season championship, and advancing to the championship 4. And then he got brutally honest about Bubba Wallace and the performance expectations of the number 23 team in 2025.
Yeah, I know Bubba Wallace has a lot of sponsorship partners that goes along with him. But with that said, I get a feeling this is a pretty critical year for Bubba Wallace. Tyler Reddick won one more race this year, just this year alone, than Bubba Wallace has his whole career. 2 wins and 255 starts. And as I said, he's been there since day one with 2311 when they first rolled out at the beginning of 2021. Third crew chief. Yeah, most of the time was with Booty Barker, but that wasn't who started out in 21. Now, when he won Talladega in the fall of 21, Booty was already with him. But this will be his third crew chief. I feel like this is a pretty critical year for Bubba Wallace to go out there and contend for wins.
I don't know if I agree with Larry Mack because Wallace, as Cavanagh pointed out, statistically had his best Cup season in 2024 with his best average finishing position, most top 5s, and most top 10s in a season. But the organization made the move and replaced Booty Barker with Charles Denike. They're obviously seeking improvement and have a high bar set by the achievements of the number 45 team in 2024, including that regular season title and the appearance in the Championship 4 race in Phoenix. It'll certainly be interesting to see how both Wallace and Herbst do in 2025, because Reddick is going to be running near the front for much of the time. Also on Wednesday was a big win for 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, getting the injunction granted to race as charter teams in 2025 while continuing to pursue their lawsuit against NASCAR. I'm not a legal expert and don't pretend to be one, but from my basic knowledge and understanding, the ruling was obviously good for the teams. As you would expect, legal experts were quick to caution that this ruling doesn't mean anything as far as the success of the antitrust lawsuit. U.S. District Court Judge Kenneth Bell said as much in the order when he said, quote, "The court emphasizes that it does not reach and expresses no opinion as to plaintiffs' likelihood of success on their other Sherman Act claims, including but not limited to their allegations of anti-competitive restrictions and conduct," end quote. So that really makes sense. However, he also made this statement later, quote, "The court finds that NASCAR possesses monopsony power in the relevant market, which is the market for premier stock car racing teams in the United States. NASCAR's Cup Series is the only premier stock car racing series in the United States, and premier stock car racing is a distinct form of automobile racing with unique cars and highly specialized racing teams, for which other types of motorsports like Formula One and IndyCar are not substitutes. Therefore, NASCAR fully controls which race teams can compete at the highest level of stock car racing. Effectively, it has 100% market share." Again, I have absolutely zero legal background, but at least to me, it sounds pretty clear on what the judge thinks about the matter, and that he's leaning heavily toward the teams. Yesterday, Bob Pockrass reported that NASCAR plans to appeal the ruling. It will file an emergency motion for a partial stay of injunction pending appeal. Where this goes next, we're going to find out. What we do know, as of now, is 23XI and Front Row will both be competing with 3 cars each as charter teams when the haulers roll into Daytona in less than 2 months. Unsurprisingly, Larry McReynolds, who already admitted Denny Hamlin wasn't happy with him because of his comments on the lawsuit, was surprised by the decision.
I guess just using common sense, I'm kind of surprised that they won this because you, unlike 13 other organizations, did not sign the charter agreement for 2025, yet you're trying to still race as a charter team. But evidently, there is a judge that has decided, okay, until this lawsuit is settled one way or the other, on an interim basis, we're going to let you race as charter teams. I'm pretty surprised they were able to win this, but they've at least won it for the time being.
And finally, yesterday I sat down with Xfinity Series co-owner of Alpha Prime Racing, Tommy Joe Martins. We talked about the big news this week and the hiring of Parker Retzlaff to drive the number 4 car in 2025. As you would expect, Martins is excited about the prospects of the young driver. Take a listen. Hey, Tommy Joe, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, good to see you, Kyle.
Yeah, so, the big news this week is Parker Retzlaff is coming to join Alpha Prime in 2025. So kind of walk me through the process of how it all came to be. And, you've obviously got a really up-and-coming driver coming to your stable. Talk to me about it.
We, at the end of the year here, started having a few conversations with a few different drivers about potential fits on the team. We were made aware by Ryan Ellis and his management company that he was not going to be returning. That was around the Roval, I believe, if I got the timeline right here. And so that's when we started having a few more advanced talks about full-time drivers and who it might be. And we spent some time talking to, a few people that are on the grid currently that we kind of knew hadn't signed yet. And what does that look like? Sponsorship obviously plays a big part in this, and kind of the partners that they had lined up to return, and having those conversations with Caesar as well about the people that we felt like were going to be a really good fit, not just driving the race car, but also just like the right personality to match with Brennan. Brennan was having such a strong year last year, and we really didn't want to bring somebody in here that we felt like was going to be a, combative type of teammate situation. And there's a lot of decisions that kind of go along with anytime you make a driver move. Money is a factor, fit is a factor, speed is a factor. There's a lot, like, where do you feel like this person's going to be in a few years? Is this going to be a benefit to the team that they were on it? Or is this going to be like, oh boy, they were kind of reaching there on that? And there's a lot, there's a lot that kind of goes into decision making.
Sure.
And with Parker, he just checks every single box that you'd ever want. He's been extremely fast in a very short period of time. we love the idea at Alpha Prime right now that he's kind of coming off what I think a lot of people would say is a little bit of a disappointing kind of a sophomore year that he had over there with Jordan.
Sure.
And they do a great job over there, and he's won multiple pole positions, right? I mean, there's things that you would point to last year that would say like, okay, this kid is clearly still really fast. But just like, it felt like he just never caught a break really all year. And
Right.
I think he would tell you that he put himself in some bad spots at times, and that resulted in some DNFs. And I think there was also just natural stuff that happens in racing and part failures and stuff going wrong. So, it happens. It's happened to me where you start off
Right.
tough in a year and it just feels like you can't ever get something to go right. And that's why we feel like we're kind of buying low on Parker a little bit here. I think the people that watch this stuff and that are in the garage area every week have clearly kind of circled Parker as one of those kids at 21 years old that you go, wow, okay, there's something here. And I think to pair him up with Brennan, who is, as far as I'm concerned, a cup level race car driver right now, in the prime of his career.
Mhm.
I think he's going to be a great mentor for Parker and just kind of being a pro. And I think that's really kind of become the hallmark of our team, right? I think we're a team that a lot of people kind of overlook. And then you look up in the standings and you go, oh, wow, man, they're sitting there. Look at who they're around. Oh, they're around a Colic car. Oh, they're around look at these other organizations that they're kind of racing around. And that's what we want to be. We want to kind of be that best of the rest group. And I think when we started strategizing about that, because the priority for us was to bring Ryan Ellis back. He's been with us for 3 years. This would have been his 4th year with our organization. We have just loved having him be a part of our race team.
Right.
And would obviously have him again, right? I mean, he's a friend of mine, more than just being a race car driver for us. But when we're having to make the decision to try to fill that seat. Okay, who do we feel like is kind of still in that growth period, that growth trajectory? Where do we feel like they're going to be? Are they going to fit with our group? Have they been on a small team? Would they see this as an opportunity, or would they see this as a step down? And with Parker, he's like, man, I've raced with Brennan a lot this year. I've seen that you guys are really good. Like, he knew this was going to be an opportunity, and not I see people saying it's a lateral move. It's like, yeah, I can see that, because I do think that us and Jordan Anderson are very similar organizations.
Sure.
But I think for Parker, he sees it as an opportunity because he's looked at it like, well, shoot, I've won the pole over there at Jordan's place a couple of times.
Right.
I'm not scared of getting in a car that everybody says is a 20th place car. Like, I feel like I can go be the difference. And really just speed was the biggest thing that Caesar and I talked about. We were like, we got to get somebody in this car that is fast, period. That is the thing. We have Brennan, who's been so fast. And even though there is a little risk involved with Parker, obviously coming off the year that he came off of, we don't really see it as any risk at all. We think it's just a young driver that's learning, and they generally don't get worse, Kyle. Like, I've never seen a 21-year-old driver that turns 22 that's getting worse. I think he's just going to keep getting better, and I think that's going to happen really up here more than it's going to happen anywhere else. Like, he's just going to develop more with racecraft and smarts and who he surrounds himself with and how he races guys and how he gets raced. And I think all that kind of plays into the decision.
So did you guys initially reach out to him, or did he reach out to you guys?
So everything that we do for the most part, Kyle, happens through the agencies, right?
Okay.
So his agency, Team Dillon Management, I've got a really good relationship now with Austin Craven, who is also representation for Leland Honeyman, who we had in our car before.
Right.
And that was another driver that we talked to, and kind of thought, what is that fit going to be like? And they've yet to announce their plans for next season. But, Leland's going to be a part of a team and be racing in the Xfinity Series again. And at the same time, like, who is the right fit for us? And that is both. Are they looking for us, or are they looking for something else? Are they looking for a part-time deal at a bigger team? Are they looking for a full-time deal? Are they looking for, well, we just want road course races. Well, we just want the speedways. Well, and everybody's kind of got different motivations.
Right.
I think for Parker, he's in a spot where he is still wants to get a couple cup opportunities, but really this is the place that he considers his series, is the Xfinity Series. He has been here now. He's going into year 4 in the Xfinity Series at such a young age. and he wanted a full-time opportunity. So that was a big motivating factor of kind of how we got that done.
So, it's curious, right? I just think about the two of us. We've talked years ago about Jack Arute coming in. And so, you've had a young guy. Now he's in the truck series for, I think it's his second full-time season. So, or maybe third, but you've had this tendency to hire these younger drivers, Leland Honeyman, give them a chance. And so, as I said, Raja's full-time in the trucks. Now, do you kind of feel like that Parker is this young diamond in the rough that just kind of has fallen into your lap? Because he won 2 poles. He has been fast. I know he has the 12 DNFs, which is obviously an ugly number, but that doesn't overlook the fact that he has been fast and he's had some good results. I mean, he finished 6th in the Cup race at Daytona. So he obviously knows how to race. I was listening to you and Larry McReynolds talk yesterday on Sirius, and he's talking about, he's just got to learn, like you just mentioned, his racecraft and just fine tune things and just improve. As anyone who's 21 years old in life, whether it's racing or just life, you have to learn things about life and how to improve on them. So do you kind of feel like you just got this guy that's just fallen into your lap that could really bring, achieve great things with Alpha Prime this year?
I would say that I think everybody that's a decision maker, right, in any sport would probably love to sit here and tell you how smart they are. Like if that's ultimately what you're trying to get me to do here, it's not at all. No. We feel like we got the best guy, of course. But I was surprised at it feels like he didn't have as many options as really I would have thought. And I think part of that was that. I think part of it was money. I would tell you pretty candidly, it's not like it's a big money deal. Parker's never really been a big money family type guy, right? So he's not paying premium dollars. I think he's talented enough that he would absolutely be in those conversations at some of those bigger teams if the sponsorship was also there, right? And he's got great partners, and we're starting to work with them now as we're kind of planning out the year. We're just not talking about $5-6 million like what we're talking about at a Gibbs or some of these Cup organizations. And that's what it's taking now in the Xfinity series. So for Parker, it's like, okay, I'm not going to be in those talks because number one, they want to see you win.
Right.
And number two, if it's not that, it's got to be big money. And so he's not really fallen into either one of those categories. And so then I think it's really easy for some of those bigger teams to overlook him, right? For us, that obviously presents a pretty cool opportunity because when you go through the Xfinity series, like we have as we do these strategy meetings and we talk about this with our crew chiefs and we're recruiting mechanics and we're bringing people in to be a part of our team. I've used it as a pitch now since we've gotten this deal done of like, look, I honestly believe as I sit here today that I have 2 of the best drivers in our series. And we could get into the debates of who is where and where they're going and the teams and everything else. But I think we've got 2 of the top 10 guys in the series today. And if you've got 2 top 10 level talent people, I think that elevates what you're doing as an entire organization. Like it's everything that we do as a team comes down to handing this thing off to the guy driving it.
Right.
Or girl. And ultimately it's on them. And you do everything you do, whether that's sim or affiliations or building cars or buying new equipment or bringing in a mechanic that's high price guy that came from a Cup team or engineering support or the manufacturer and all the stuff we do. Still, somebody's got to climb in the car and get it done for you.
Sure.
So for us as a small team, right, we go down the priority list of things here and it's like, all right, well, we're kind of used to doing it with less money. That doesn't scare me. We've been independent. We've never gotten manufacturer support. We don't have sim time. We don't have all this other stuff. That doesn't scare us to not have that.
Right.
For Parker, he's been a part of that Chevrolet sim program for the last couple of years, but he wasn't scared of it. He was like, okay, whatever. Is that necessarily like the reason that I'm going fast? No, I think I'm the reason that I'm going fast. Right. So you kind of need your race car driver to really believe in themselves in that way. And, at 21 years old, Parker now has multiple times over the course of his career where when you kind of have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, can I do this? Am I good enough?
Right.
he's got real evidence that shows like, yeah, actually I can. I've run in the top 5 in these Xfinity races. I've qualified on a pole on a smaller team twice. I have run in the top 5 at Richmond. I have gone to these places and been super fast. I've learned how to road race in a really short period of time, and I'm competitive at it. Like all of these little things that I think has given him some of the confidence that he has at 21 years old. And he's not a cocky kid. It's just that he looks around in this series and goes, well, I'm not scared of any of these guys. And to have that at 21, that's rare. And then to also be like 74 races into your NASCAR career at 21 years old. I mean, that's a lot of, I feel like we have in a way benefited from other people's misfortune, right? Like when it's the first 5 or 6 races or 10 races or 20 races, quite frankly, they're going to tear some stuff up and they're going to make a lot of mistakes. I mean, they just are. It's happening really fast at this level. But I feel like in a weird way, like no offense to Jordan, but he probably wound up getting the best and the worst at times, right? Of Parker, where he got all the speed, but he got all the problems that go with that. Right. We don't have the experience to match it, right? And I feel like we're catching him at a really good time, right? He's driven for Jordan Anderson, and now he's going to wind up driving, for our organization. He's driven for Beard Motorsports in the Cup Series, right? He's driven for these type of teams, and I think we're the perfect kind of next step for him, because like the next contract that he winds up getting after us is going to be a very different contract.
So I guess the last question I would have for you, Tommy Joe, is you've got him, this last year, he had the 12 DNFs. What do you have as expectations? I mean, finishing races is obviously crucial. So, I mean, that's going to be imperative, and I'm sure you're going to emphasize that. But I mean, do you have any goals? Because I know I think back to our conversations of years ago, and, you're talking about having multiple cars in the Xfinity series and finishing in the top 20 is just going to be really challenging because the field has improved so much. So where do you put those kind of expectations on him? Have you talked to him? I mean, kind of give me a 30,000 foot view of what you're expecting out of him next year in the number 4 car.
Well, I think there was a little, dose of humility there that happened with Parker at the end of the year. Again, this is the times we've, now discussed this and what the goals are for him specifically. Right. Everybody wants to make the playoffs.
Right.
Is it realistic? Is it realistic to make the playoffs? I mean, right now, in our series, there are, and I'm including Junior Motorsports in this, they would, of course, push back to this, but I'm sorry, and I respect the heck out of them. They are essentially a cup level program in our series, right? And they would say, well, we're not a cup program. It's like, well, yeah, but you kind of are, right? Like you're more of a cup level program than like JTG, right. Whatever, Hayek Motorsports now or whatever it is. It's like you actually have more infrastructure and a bigger relationship with a manufacturer than they do.
Right.
So that is a cup level program. All right. Well, if you look at that, there's 16 of those that are full time in our series, between Gibbs and RCR and Colleague and the Haas group now, right. And all that. So you start adding it up, and it's like there's 16 of those cars. So if you're going to point your way in to the playoffs, that's going to be tough. So that's probably not the realistic goal for Jordan Anderson Racing, for us, for the 48, for really any of those kind of secondary level teams. I think the thing you got to really look at is, can you win a race? I mean, if that's really the thing, it's can you win a race, and where are you going to stand the best chance to do that, and kind of picking your spots. And I think you look at that with Parker and the place that he ran in the Cup Series and how he was able to put himself in position. Yep. And Brennan Poole with what he did for our team last year and putting himself in position and having a chance. I think that is a really nice fit, and it's going to give us a chance at one of those type of things. And then at the end of the year, for him to run as much as he did last year and then not finish in the top 20 of the driver points, I know that really, really kind of pisses him off, because he knows that he's good enough to be there and do that. And he laughed with me, and he's like, seeing Brennan finish 16th in points, he was just like, that has made me mad. He's like, because I felt like I was just as good as them, and I was fast at times, but we just didn't have the finishes, right? So putting a season together and kind of being a pro, and that's kind of what I've talked to Parker about, is like the next step in his career is becoming a pro race car driver. He has showed that he is absolutely fast enough to be a professional get paid to do this and do it at a really high level at a young age. What is being a pro? Well, being a pro is taking a 17th place car and finishing 14th with it and knowing that you did a good job, right? And I do think that in our organization that has been really independent now for several years, everybody in our team and kind of our like hemisphere here, nobody looks at that as like a bad day, right?
Sure.
We get out of the car and you run 14th and we go, man, that was a good day, because we're pretty realistic about it, right? So I think at times, when you're doing all the other stuff and affiliations and cars and all the new stuff that you're doing, I think sometimes the expectations can get a little out of whack.
Right.
And I think with us, we've always been very, very realistic.
Well, I'm excited for you. I know this, this has been a process these last few years, building the team. And now you've got, it seems like to me, just regular guy that just observes, that you guys have a really good chance to maybe win a race this year. And that, obviously that would be awesome for your organization. So congratulations on the new hire of Parker Retzlaff. I wish you and Alpha Prime the best of luck in 2025, and I'll see you in a couple months in Daytona.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. I want to hear what you thought about the various topics. Let's start with Joey Logano going undercover. Do you think you would have recognized him and his wife if they walked into your local car dealership? And what about Jack Arute's remarks on Kyle Larson and the Indianapolis 500? Do you think Larson will win? And what about the remarks of Larry McReynolds on Bubba Wallace in 2025? Do you think 2025 is a critical year for the 2311 racing driver? And what did you think about the interview with Tommy Joe Martins? Do you think Parker Retzlaff improves on his season in 2024, where he recorded 12 DNFs? And lastly, what do you think about the latest news in the lawsuit? Were you surprised like Larry Mack by the court's decision, or is that what you expected? Thanks again for checking out the latest video and supporting the channel. I really and truly appreciate it, and hope you have a great rest of your day.